Right, Sally,
Yeah.
would you like to open in prayer?
No.
Would you go to it?
Okay. Dear Lord, I thank you for already the power of you is here, Lord. We've sensed it, we've felt it, we've seen it already, Lord. So I ask you to stay longer with us, Lord. Stay with us longer. We are possibly alive to do your work. Stay with us longer. Stay with the way right now, Lord. Guide us what you say so we can learn more about you and how we can battle against all these forces. That we battle on your regard, that we are your army. You're raising us up to be your army to fight through the spiritual warfare. So I thank you, Lord, that you've put the way to do this. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Right, well,
Bring it on the fire, folks. Bring it on the fire.
so we've started the study of the Bible.
Stand.
What we do is, because it was
I've
2
got a
weeks ago,
problem. To do it properly.
because it was 2 weeks ago, we looked at the Leviathan. To do a bit of a recap. So, Leviathan is a very powerful demon, extremely powerful, and if you're involved in the deliverance ministry to any extent, you will come across it because it's surprisingly common.
Calling leviathan common.
It's a very common demon, yeah. People do come across them far more often than you think. And he's king over all the children of pride, which means the demons of pride. So,
I'm just going to shut the door.
once we've looked at Leviathan, we'll have a break, look at maybe the book of Luke, and then later on we'll go look at the children of pride, the demons that he's ruler over. But we're going to do something for too long because it can get a bit boring, monotonous, just one subject. So it's important to remember, no matter how powerful a demon is, we have more power than they do. As confirmed by Luke chapter 10, verses 19 to 20, where Jesus said, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you." So we've got power to walk, stamp on every demon. Doesn't matter how powerful they are or their rank. We are more powerful in Jesus, and we outrank them. It's important to remember that we need to use Jesus' name and authority He's given us when we do a deliverance. Otherwise, you can be like the sons of Sceva, who saw Paul casting out demons in Jesus' name. Then they had to go. In the name of Jesus, and Paul preaches, I command you to come out there. Didn't work. Right, in the name of Jesus, and Paul preaches. Didn't work like that. They didn't have the power and authority. So demons stripped them all naked, gave them a good hiding, and chased them out. And they ran out naked. So, so it's important to remember, always use the name Jesus Christ, because you do have the authority to use it. But never be proud of what you do. It's not us doing it, especially against Leviathan, because as a demon of pride, he'll know all the signs of body language, and he'll know that you are proud, and he's clever and manipulative, and he'll use that against you. And the demon will carry out all kinds of tests on you. They test your faith, see if you have faith in God. They may even tell you that they are in charge of the deliverance session. About that said to me. And so remember the verses, learn verses from the Bible, especially with Jesus giving us power tread of the serpents, the scorpions, and all the power of the enemy. They can't argue with the Bible. They might attempt to scare you, and that's a test of your faith. I've had demons say to me, I'm coming after you next. And so I was, join the queue. And when they find they can't intimidate you, they back off and look for another way. You can be sure they're analysing you all the time. They're looking for something. Maybe in the background another demon's going off to find out all the information they can about you. To see if you've got weaknesses. Don't underestimate these things. They're clever, resourceful, they're organised, and they know what they're doing. Anyway, I think it's important to remember as well, if you cast a demon out of somebody, that may not be the only demon of that type. There could be a lion spirit. You might have 20, 25 lion spirits inside you. You cast one out, you still got the others. So what you do is you bind them together and cast the one out, and they all go out with it. And it's the same thing with Leviathan. There's quite a few Leviathan demons. They all go the same rank, the same jobs. And he's been encountered quite a few times. So the more we know about them, the more likely we are to defeat them. But make no mistake, any fight with Leviathan will be a fierce fight. He will put up a fight. It won't be a walk in the park or cream pies at 10 paces. This will be a bare knuckle fight. And it's like any in the war, any opposing generals like to know as much as they can about other ones. In World War II, when General Montgomery fought Rommel in North Africa, he had a photo of Rommel up in his tent, so his mind was on him all the time. He learned everything he could about Rommel's family, where Rommel went to school, everything, not just past battles. And we got to do the same. We got to know as much about Leviathan or any other demon as we can, because you need to know your enemy. And so we'll start by here. Psalm 74, verses 13 to 14 says, Thou didst divide the sea by thy strength. Thou breakest the heads of the dragons in the waters. Thou breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces, and gavest him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. So this tells us he's associated with the water and the ocean, and he's pictured with multiple heads. So one thing you can do when you encounter Leviathan is loose warrior angels to go in, cut his heads off. You can do anything you want to do with the demon. We've had a blank check. Psalm 59:10 gives us a blank check. Another thing you can do, which Leviathan, or can say to Leviathan, which he doesn't like, is you can say, I'll give you meat, I'll chop you up, I'll give you to be meat to the people. He doesn't like that. Oh, it really miffs him. He hates it. So it's nice to just go psychological points over these things. Psalm 104, verse 26. There go the ships, there is that Leviathan, whom thou hast made to play therein. Isaiah 27, verse 1. In that day the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent. And he shall slay the dragon that's in the sea. So this verse calls him both a dragon and a serpent. and again he's connected with the sea. Now, if you think about it, the fact he's connected with the sea should be of huge significance for us here. Anybody know why? I think it's quite obvious. Exactly. We've got the sea around here. We live in the whole, it's not just the beach of Port Talbot, it's the whole of the area here. We live in Swansea Bay, not a part of Swansea, but still Swansea Bay. Just up there, you got Porthcawl, the gen on the area there. You got a major steelworks, you got a port. So if he can control the sea around here, there's a lot of power and influence over the town. So that means Leviathan's a major player in this town. And you might be thinking, well, okay, he's a major player, but how powerful is he? He's powerful. The whole of Job 41 is devoted to him. And I've never found anywhere in the Bible a whole chapter devoted to one demon. I don't think, not even Satan has that. Doesn't that tell us that we need to know a lot, an awful lot about Leviathan? Now I'm going to read the whole of Job 41. I know it's 34 verses. It might seem monotonous, but it's worth reading this out, because this is the chapter that's devoted to him. So it might go on a little bit. It gets a bit monotonous. I apologise for that. Not really mine, but
It's sorry, not sorry moment, is it?
one of them, yeah. So it's important, if you can, concentrate all the way through, because there's a lot of information in here that at the end of the Bible study, not today, but I'll tell you how you can defeat Leviathan. And it's all in here.
Will you stand up?
Right, so starting off, for this one we're using the New King James Version. I think it makes it easier for people to understand. Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook, or snare his tongue with a line which you lower? Can you put a reed through his nose, or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many supplications to you? Will he speak softly to you? Will he make a covenant with you? Will you take him as a servant forever? Will you play with him as a bird, or will you leash him for your maidens? Will your companions make a bouquet of him? Will they apportion him among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with harpoons, or his head with fishing spears? Lay you a hand on him. Remember the battle. Never do it again. Indeed, any hope of overcoming him is false. One should not be overwhelmed at the shall one not be overwhelmed at the sight of him? No one is so fierce that he would dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand against me? Who has preceded me that I should pay him? Everything under heaven is mine. I will not conceal his limbs, his mighty power, or his graceful proportions. Who can remove his outer court? Who can approach him with a double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face with his terrible teeth all around? His rows of scales are his pride, shut up tightly as with a seal. One is so near another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick, they stick together and cannot be parted. His sneezings flash forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lights. Sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke goes out of his nostrils as from a boiling pot and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame goes out of his mouth. Strength dwells in his neck, and sorrow dances before him. The folds of his flesh are joined together. They are firm on him and cannot be moved. His heart is as hard as stone, even as hard as the lower millstone. When he raises himself up, the mighty are afraid. Because of his crashings, they are beside themselves. Though the sword reaches him, it cannot avail, nor does spear, dart, or javelin. He regards iron as straw and bronze as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones become like stubble to him. Darts are regarded as straw. I did say it was on a bit, didn't I? He laughs at the threat of javelins. His undersides are like sharp potsherds. He spreads pointed marks in the mire. He makes the deep boil like a pot. He makes the sea like a pot of ointment. He leaves a shining wake behind him. One would think the deep had white hair. On earth there is nothing like him, which is made without fear. He beholds every high thing. He is king over all the children of pride. As you can see, it's quite a lot, 34 verses. But in there, there's quite a lot of information about how to beat him. If you just give you a quick few examples here. It says, can you draw out Leviathan with a hook? The crocodile, the image of Leviathan is based on the Nile crocodile. And it says, for you, can you, and he's so fierce, if you rile him up, you know you've got a fight in your hands. And it's saying things here like, can you draw him out with a hook? Well, we can't. If you go to do it, you know all about it. Can you play with him as a bird? Or fill his skin with harpoons? Or his head with fishing spears? Or a double bridle on him? None of these things, if we attempted to do it ourselves, we can't do. However, we can use angels to do it. They've got the power to do it. They can do it. And that's how we can beat them. Because what he'll do, he's a proud demon, full of pride. So the best thing to do is destroy his pride, send him back to Satan, basically on a stretcher, humiliate them. If somebody's proud, the best way to beat them is humiliate them, pull them down. That's what you do with Leviathan. To get angels, put a thick rope on a hook, put it through his mouth here, out through his nose maybe, pull him. We can't do that, angels can. Put a rope through his tongue, pull him by his tongue. His scales, they're his pride. Have angels to have hooks and just rip his scales off. That's his pride. Humiliate them. We can do things like have angels to throw harpoons into his skin. Things like put a double bridle on him, like a horse. We pull him along with that. You can draw them. His teeth are fierce and frightening. having asked God to equip angels with spiritual sledgehammers, smash his teeth out. Make a complete utter mess of him. It does work. It does work. Well, Leviathan hates that chapter on himself. He hates it. He can't stand it because there's things in there tell us how to beat it.
And what's the chapter again?
Job 41. And he also hates the first and second commandments. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. He hates that. So this is just me thinking this now. He hates that. So maybe he looks upon himself as a god. Because he's so powerful. And a lot of the legends, the sea legends, they're based on him. So I'm thinking that maybe he looks upon himself as a god. But he's not a god. He never has been and he never will be. The second commandment, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above or that is in the earth beneath or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, and to the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me, and keep my commandments. He hates these. So maybe if you ever come up against Leviathan, quote these to him. He doesn't like these. So you've got to beat every demon you come up against. It's important to beat them psychologically, break their will to fight. So if they got a strong will and they're ready for the fight, they're going to put up a fight, obviously. It's going to be harder to deal with them. But if you break their will to fight, they're halfway to losing anyway. It's like somebody wants to bully someone. They can do it only because that person hasn't got it in there to stand up for themselves. The minute that person says, no, I'm not having this, they stand up to that person. Very often it's a different case altogether. You've got to break that person's will to stand up. And the demons, you break demons' will. So, Job 41 and other references definitely connect Leviathan with the sea. And I think we've all heard of the various mythological so-called gods of the sea, such as Neptune, Dagon, Poseidon, and many others. And it's highly likely that Leviathan is the inspiration for these so-called gods. And it seems there's always some so-called god, a demon, with his characteristics who rules the sea and the rivers. They're always there somewhere. I bet a long time ago in this area here, there were so-called gods. You have the sea there, the River Avon there, one going up at the, not a river, but an inlet going up into Britain Ferry, the river in Swansea, Towie, not in Cardiff, rivers, Newport. There's quite a lot of big rivers in this area, so we can be sure they've been active. And there would have been ancient people in ancient times here who would have had names for these, thinking they were gods. How many here have have heard of Atlantis?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, everybody. Now, that's the legend of a city that was highly advanced scientifically and technologically. And some researchers believe that Leviathan was the chief deity worshipped in Atlantis, so God destroyed the kingdom in judgment. Possible, I don't know. It's plausible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you do? That's a first. So what I'm thinking about, and we know Leviathan holds the rank of principality. Now you might think, how high is a principality? Well, when I was doing my research, I came across an order of demonic ranks in Satan's kingdom. I don't know if anybody knows 100% what order of rank exists, but this is one that I come across, and I think it's worth repeating, just in case, but keep in mind somebody else might come up with something different. So, in first place, we have the creep himself, the little snake, snivelling little creep. Can't put words to that thing, Satan. He's the commander-in-chief. Then, in second place, we have Romans. These would be the kings, world kings, things like that. Then, third place, dominions. These are the lordships. In fourth place, we have principalities. These are rulers and princes. You can have rulers, world rulers, princes, world princes, various ranks. There's more than actually than says here, but it just gives a good indication. And in fifth place, we have powers. Sixth place, rulers of the darkness of this world. And in seventh place, spiritual wickedness in high places. So, I have in the past explained what a principality is, what it does, of its power. Does anybody remember? Right, well, a principality. Shut up, you. Could define it as forces and dominions dealing with nations and governments, high-level satanic princes set over nations and regions of the earth, commanding generals over Satan's fallen army. So they're quite powerful. You've got a principality over every town, city, country, street maybe, and they're everywhere. And obviously not every principality is Leviathan, there's quite a few. And Leviathan is the principality in charge of the dark region of Satan's kingdom. And most of Leviathan's kingdom is below the water level. But obviously, like other principalities, he also operates in the second heaven. And by right, he's supposed to be next to Satan in rank. But at present, a demon called the Queen of Heaven has taken his place due to the favour this demon is receiving from Satan. Revelation chapter 17, verses 3 to 4. Oh, sorry, before I go on ahead, has anybody got any thoughts or opinions? Anything you'd like to share on what we've looked at so far? Normally, Sean's got something to say. Right. Revelation chapter 17, verses 3 to 4. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-coloured beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet colour, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. In the Bible, if somebody is dressed in scarlet and purple, it indicates, anybody know?
Royalty.
Correct! Give them both an apple. Yeah, royalty. So it's clear that this demon, the Queen of Heaven, is considered to be royalty in Satan's kingdom. So at the moment, he's below the Queen of Heaven in rank. And he's in charge of all animals in the water, air and land that instill fear into human beings or into other animals. He's the prince of death and hell. And all of Satan's army is under his control. No wonder God put a whole chapter about him in the Bible. I wouldn't mind betting, this is just my opinion, that the demon that was causing all the problems behind the scenes for Job was Leviathan. Because otherwise, why would God have put a whole chapter about Leviathan in the book of Job if it didn't, if Leviathan wasn't a part of it? If he had no connection, why would he put him in there? He'd put him in somewhere else. Because God doesn't put things in his word and put them in out of context. There's a reason why. That's my suspicion. I don't know, but that's what I believe it was Leviathan who was doing it. So, all big and small serpents of whatever colour are under Leviathan's control. Control snakes. That ties in, doesn't it? His kingdom is covered and protected by thick darkness. And this is interesting. His agents control other people. And they seek to control people everywhere, regardless of colour, nationality, social position, wealth, or anything else. They seek total control of everybody. Anybody have any thoughts, opinions? Louise?
I got one. In Job, it said, God said to Satan, do your will or something,
Yeah.
but don't hurt him. So God gave Satan authority to do work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is that?
God put a hedge around Job,
Right.
so that whatever he did prospered and Satan couldn't attack him. But it looks as though Job was full of pride.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he said that the thing that he feared most has come upon him, the loss of everything he had. So God had to teach him humility.
Right.
So, and again, as I said earlier, who's going to know more about pride than the king of the children of pride, Leviathan? So Satan couldn't attack unless God allowed him to. He couldn't get past that hedge.
Right. Okay.
So you have to
Okay.
have permission to do it. And that gives us insight into what happens in the spirit world. People think, oh, why has this happened to me? Why has all this happened to me? Those that are under attack.
So sometimes God can give authority to Satan for us to go through things, then, is it?
Yeah, to build us up maybe.
Ah, right.
It won't
Gotcha.
happen. God won't give that unless it's going to benefit us in some way. Even though you may not see it while you're going through it, eventually you will come out in a better position.
Okay.
Because when Job recognised eventually who God was, but he's always loyal to God. And his friends and his wife would tell him, turn against him, turn against him. His wife said, curse God and die. He wouldn't. His friends were saying, you must have committed some sin. No, I haven't committed any sin. Well, every human being sins, don't they? There isn't one. But eventually, God appeared to him, didn't he, in the whirlwind. And then Job realised that, oh, I don't know what's going on. I'm really nothing. But what happened at the end? He had a lot more than he started
Yeah,
off with.
yeah.
He was faithful and loyal to God, but he was still proud in himself.
Right.
That pride had to be broken.
I got you now. Right.
And as I said, he stood out to Satan because of he was so successful, so wealthy. And he said, you put a hedge around him. No wonder he's loyal to you. And it was a test for him as well.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Answers a
Anyone
lot.
got any thoughts, opinions? No? Right. So, I hope good idea to have some water. Would help. Right. Leviathan's agents. Some of these are demons. And when he gives an order, they don't sit there saying, well, why this, why that? And they don't question him. They obey without question. He says, do it, and they will do it. They do whatever they have to do to make sure his orders are fulfilled. And they back up their words and their works with destruction. Job again is a good example. And they will not compromise their words with any word or action that even remotely opposes anything they say. They will do exactly what he says. And they will not deviate. Maybe they're too afraid. Because in Satan's kingdom, fear rules. The lower demons are terrified of the higher ranking demons. If they fail, they'll get beaten. They will get seriously punished. And Leviathan has a lot of agents all over the world. Wherever you go, he has agents. And if you know what they're doing, type of things they do, you can see them at work. You can see the results of what they do all across the world. And Leviathan's agents are fearless and they're bold. They're bold enough to do anything evil. And if they have to, they don't even care if it's in front of people. People are not going to know what's going on. They see somebody doing something, they think, oh, there's a nut, they think. But it's not. It's Leviathan's agent working through that person. Whatever it is, they'll do it if it means their task is completed. Now, an example of this would be Leviathan and a woman. He'll try to stop her submitting to her husband, as God says a woman should do, and he'll try to control the people around her. Leviathan hates to submit to any authority, especially authority ordained by God. Pride is a pride demon, and pride doesn't like to submit, is it?
No.
Somebody probably walk around, oh, look at me.
They get it.
They won't submit to anybody, even those they know they're supposed to. They're rebellious. And Leviathan, as I've said, is a nasty, powerful demon. A nasty, powerful piece of work. And we don't know everything that he does yet. Maybe we never will. But we're learning. As a ministry, the deliverance workers are learning more and more about him all the time. And we do know that every war that's ever taken place, past, present and future, has been and will be led by Leviathan. He covers a lot of areas. Go about a quarter now left, so we can make a start. We can start looking at characteristics of Leviathan. And it's important to know about his characteristics because it will enable us to understand what he does, the way he works to achieve whatever he's supposed to be doing. So before we look at the first characteristic, anybody got any thoughts, anything about what we've said so far? What we looked at?
No?
But if we think of it though, what he does is far-ranging, isn't it?
Mm.
And he's a high-ranking demon and he's powerful. And that's something we mustn't ever forget. But, like all demons, he can be beaten to a pulp. So the first characteristic is he doesn't talk much. His orders are not to be questioned, modified or even rejected. It's just, do it. Yes, boss. And the biblical source for that is Job 41 verse 3. Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Only if it suits him. He can be a charmer, very charming. On the other hand then, he can be nasty. So where a Leviathan's, the second of two, where a Leviathan spirit is inside a woman, that woman will refuse to submit to authority, even as a wife or junior authority. And his spirit, in the life of his agents, makes them see themselves as masters everywhere. And when they submit at all, if they do, it's done reluctantly, waiting for an opportunity to rebel. They sit there thinking, right, you wait now, my time will come, I'll have you. And that's what they do. Biblical source for this is Job 41, verses 4 to 5 and verse 22. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord, which thou lettest down? Can thou put a hook into his nose, or bow his jaw through with a thorn? Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words to thee? In other words, he'll keep on talking to you, and he'll be nice and charming until, bang, he gets his way. Will he make a covenant with thee? More likely, he'll break it first chance he gets. Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? He won't serve you. He'll look to hurt you in every way he can. Wilt thou play with him as a bird, or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens? Verse 22, in his neck remaineth strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before them, or before him. Third characteristic, the strongest surrenders easily to Leviathan. Now what have I said? when you encounter him, he will put up a fight. He's a fighter. He's full of pride. He doesn't like to back down. He's a powerful demon, and he knows it. And he's so full of himself. So he won't give in easily. And that's why you use angels as well. And we'll look at that later. But they can give him a good mauling. Far better mauling than we can. Job 41, verses 8 to 10. Lay thine hand upon him, remember the battle, do no more. You fight him, you'll never forget the fight. You'll never forget the battle. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down, even at the sight of him? So by the description given of him, it's probably a good thing that we can't see into the spirit world, because maybe people will be terrified if they saw him. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? That means people could well be terrified just looking at him. None is so fierce that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before me?